What's going on, bottom line viewers? I have the great Ruben from Catch the Blitz, the draft expert. I said to myself, I need to get a draft expert in here. So I've got the one and only from CTB. What's going on, Ruben? How you doing, man?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm great. We've got a draft to do, a mock draft. We're going to do the first round, all 32 picks. And how it's going to work is I'm going to do the even numbers. Ruben's going to do the odd numbers, which means Ruben has the first pick. And we are going to discuss each pick as if we were the GMs of the team, but also keep in mind what's realistic for that team in this process. Before we even get started with the picks, bro, what's your thoughts on the process and overall what you do for the draft, how you go about scouting the players, and then just your overall thoughts of the 2022 NFL draft?
So in general, I think this NFL draft is very unique, and that's because of the quarterbacks. Usually, there's more quarterback power, and that adds value. The first overall pick is not going to have as much value as any other year. You think about last year, right? Trevor Lawrence was a slam dunk franchise quarterback, had so much value that the Jaguars wouldn't even think of trading down. And now you have a couple guys, a couple options, but nothing close to what we've seen in the last couple of years. Just in terms of everything else, we have more analytics, more combine. People are shooting up boards. I feel like the NFL draft is going more towards the analytics side instead of the tape. That's a new trend I see going on.
Yeah, that's an interesting take, actually. I think there is definitely a fair balance there between, okay, watch the tape, see what it looks like, and then see if the stats back it up. Or, the combine as well, and the match, all that sort of stuff, I think, is taken into account. So many different avenues to get information to prepare yourself for the draft if you're a team, if you're a fan. So that's what makes mock draft so exciting. Let's start off here with the first pick in the draft, Ruben. So you are the Jacksonville Jags, and who will you be selecting for Jacksonville with the first overall pick?
Okay, I know this is going to be a little bit of an unpopular opinion, but if I'm drafting, it's going to go Evan Neal number one.
Okay.
And the reason for that is I want to maximize Trevor Lawrence's future as much as possible. The Jaguars are going to go as far as Trevor Lawrence lets them. Evan Neal is the best offensive tackle prospect since Michigan's Jake Long. I love everything about this kid. He went to high school at IMG, which was the best high school, went to Alabama, now going to go to the pros. His level of competitiveness is incredible. His IQ, if you ever see him at some interviews, he's a true face of the franchise offensive tackle, which we haven't seen in so long. I love everything about Evan Neal, and like I said, if I want to maximize the two first-round picks from last year, which are Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne, the left tackle is going to do that.
Yeah, the Jags have had a problem at tackle for years, probably at least 5 years. And this will help solve it. Neal's also played left and right, so depending on what they want to do
guard.
with him.
He's very versatile. Yeah.
He's an awesome player. I think he's arguably the best player in this draft. I do not hate that pick whatsoever. The number 2 pick is the Detroit Lions. And given that I know that the Lions are most likely wanting to go with some sort of pass rusher here, I think this would honestly be their ideal situation because I don't personally feel like Walker fits what they want to do defensively the same way that Aiden Hutchinson does as a prospect and just the style of play as a pure edge rusher who's more ready now to contribute to the team. I love just his ability to have a plan as a pass rusher, use his hands to get to the quarterback. That's something that's very developed and here to stay. And I feel like his upside isn't getting enough credit either. So I'm going to go with Hutchinson. I don't think he would be my second player, honestly, if I was ranking every player in this draft. But I do think for the purposes of Detroit, he makes the most sense. So I'm going to go with him at number 2.
Born and raised in Michigan. Imagine. He'd be a fan favorite, no doubt.
Yeah, he went to Michigan. Now he's playing for the Lions. Ruben, you're up with the number 3 pick.
So this is going to be a slam dunk for me. I'm going to pick Trayvon Walker at number 3.
Okay.
Houston shocked the world when they hired Lovie Smith. Lovie Smith is known for his defensive prowess. He's going to get the most out of Trayvon Walker. We talk about the high upside. He's going to get every single piece of that upside that Trayvon Walker has. Houston needs impact players. They get their first one with Trayvon Walker.
I like that pick. I mean, I think he's a guy that's versatile too, right? So you can kind of find out what he is at the NFL. Where do you think he's really going to play? You think he's going to play edge? You think he's going to move inside a little bit or do a little bit of both?
So I think he's going to play edge, and that's where the value's at. If you're picking in the top 3, it needs to be edge. He played a different position at Georgia, mostly just because of the talent they had. To put it in perspective, Jermaine Johnson is going to be most likely a top 10 pick this year, and he had to transfer out because he couldn't find playing time. So they had no playing time in the edge. So I feel he's going to be an edge going forward, and he's going to kill it. He is such a great prospect.
All right, so this is already the first pick where I feel like this could go a multitude of ways here. Personally, what do I think the Jets are probably going to do? I think the buzz is surrounding an edge player here at this pick. But if I were the GM, I don't know if that would be my pick necessarily. Because I do feel the Jets' defensive line is already pretty strong. And I understand that Robert Saleh loves his defensive linemen and all that. But you've got 2 beasts on the inside. You've got Carl Lawson on the outside. And you've also got solid depth behind that. So really adding another prospect to the defensive line, to me, it doesn't really matter too much at the end of the day. And I do think that one of the best players in this draft is Sauce Gardner. I think he's just a versatile DB in terms of his press man-to-man skills, but also his zone ability. And he's rare to me because he's got length and he's got quick feet. So that's something that I feel like is very rare. So that's actually going to be my pick, even though I don't think that necessarily is what they're going to do.
Yeah, I like that pick. I think the Jets are absolutely desperate for cornerback help. In the NFL, you can't survive with a weak cornerback room. You get the number 1 corner. That's something that I love to see from the Jets.
Especially against Josh Allen twice a year. So,
absolutely.
All right, your Giants.
Okay, I think the Giants, the number 1 player on the Giants board should be Evan Neal. Since he got picked with the number 1 overall pick, I'm going to go with another offensive lineman. It's going to be Ikem Ekwonu. I love his mentality. He's a road grader, and he has such high upside. He doesn't necessarily have the body that Evan Neal has, but he finishes blocks. He gets to the second level, and this guy's motor is always running. That's exactly what you want for an offensive line prospect. So he slides in at the right tackle position. The New York Giants now have 2 top 5 tackle prospects on their team. So they highly invested in that line, which they really need. Everyone knows that.
Yeah, everyone knows they need an offensive line. It's going to help Daniel Jones hopefully see his upside this year, and as well as Saquon Barkley, hopefully get him back to being one of the best, most electric players in the NFL. Just maybe question for you here. I've heard a lot of buzz surrounding Charles Cross, and personally, I like Ekwonu better than Charles Cross, but I've heard that the Giants, or at least this is what's floating around, like Cross. Where do you kind of stand in that conversation?
Well, the Giants have 2 picks in the top 7, right? So I think that they like Cross, but it's more of an option at 7 if one of the 2 top tackles aren't there. I love Cross's game. He has those long arms. He's the best pass protector in the draft, which kind of goes unnoticed because pass protection is the most important part of today's NFL. So if you can get the best pass protector in the draft, I think I'd take that, right? But Cross is one of those things that he'd be more of a valuable pick at 7 for the Giants, not necessarily 5. With Ikem there at 5, I think they go with him.
Okay, well put. So, as Ruben put it, I'm going with the best pass protector in the draft, at least according to him. And that is with the number 6 pick, the Carolina Panthers select Charles Cross. I just think they need an offensive line. Like, this is getting absolutely ridiculous at this point in terms of their protection. Last year, it didn't matter who the quarterback was, whether it was Sam Darnold or it was a Cam Newton or whoever it was. They just couldn't protect anybody. So you've got to give your quarterback, whoever that's going to be in the future, an opportunity. And now you have 2 solid tackles with Moton, however you say his name, and then also Charles Cross on both bookends of that offensive line. And plus, they did some work on the interior during the offseason and free agency. So they should have a solid offensive line and a solid defense, and that gives a young quarterback up and coming an opportunity. All right, we're back with the New York G-Men at the number 7 pick. First, before you go, obviously no trades as of now, but could you see the Giants maybe trading this pick or trading one of their picks?
They definitely want to, and they want to acquire assets for next year. I think that the Giants have the potential to be a good team this year, but the GM coming in, he saw the mess that he had to clean up. I think that there's going to be some really good quarterback prospects next year, so they do want the assets going forward.
Yeah.
I just don't think there's going to be any buyers. I think with the quarterback, usually when it comes to a trade down, trade up situation, there has to be a quarterback involved, most likely with the top 10. And I just don't think that teams would be anxious to go get their quarterback. I think maybe a little bit lower in the top 10, like around maybe 8 or 9, but just not 7. I think that's a little too early. And then you have to think, who are they going to jump, right? So if they're going to the Giants, are they jumping the Falcons? I don't think the Falcons are too serious about drafting a quarterback. So I think more in the 8 to 9 range would be more realistic, but the Giants are a possibility.
I mean, they could be jumping Seattle, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Seattle. I think Seattle definitely wants a quarterback this year. Yeah, like I said, I think trading up with the Falcons would make more sense than the Giants. I just don't think the Falcons are a serious contender for a quarterback. But if teams are scared that the Falcons do have a chance at that, the Giants would be a great spot.
All right. So who is your pick at number 7?
I'm going to go with Derek Stingley Jr. I think he actually has one of the biggest upsides in the whole draft. His freshman season was absolutely incredible. You're talking about the hip fluidity, the hand checking, the ball skills. He is everything you'd want. I know this is going to probably be a huge take, but as a corner, I saw some Deion Sanders in him. We're talking the confidence, the hip fluidity. He is an absolute island corner, and I comped Darrelle Revis to him. But I think he's that type of corner, just an absolute shutdown corner. His ball skills are incredible. His athletic ability is incredible. The only thing holding his draft stock down was the injury concerns and the motor concerns. Those are things that you can settle with draft interviews. Once they interview him and see what ticks for him, I think teams are like, okay, we have a lot of those questions answered. His pro day was incredible. He ran very well in the 40. And he showed that the knee was good. I just don't think there's many question marks left with Derek Stingley.
Yeah, I'm not going to say I'm on the opposite side of the spectrum, but I do. If I was a general manager, I would be very, very cautious about picking a player that's only played 10 games the last 2 years and showed his best tape like 3 years ago. Like that to me in the top 10, I do feel is a little risky when I feel like this is a deep and good corner class. So I think that he's got the upside, like you said, to be maybe the best player in this draft. So it could be worth it. But I also see the downside for why a team might pass up on him as well. So I think he's going to be fascinating to watch. And I definitely agree that the landing spot is going to be very big for him in terms of getting the best out of what he could be. All right, at the number 8 pick, the Atlanta Falcons need everything on their football team. I don't think this is an exaggeration. Maybe not. Like a lot of people early in the process were mocking corners, and I don't really think they need a corner anymore because they've got one of the best young guys in AJ Terrell as on top of Casey Hayward, who they brought in. So I don't think corner is exactly a need, but they could use pass rusher. They could use wide receiver for sure, obviously quarterback, obviously offensive line. So just looking at this board, my top player on the board is going to be Jameson Williams. I love Jameson Williams. He's my favorite receiver in this draft because he's got that electrifying speed both without the ball and with the ball. He can change the game. Good route runner, still can be refined in terms of his physicality. But I just think his speed, it's just a number one receiver in the modern NFL. That's what you need, and I love speed. So Jameson Williams, even though it might take him some time to get on the field, is going to be the number 8 pick in the draft.
Mitch, I think that's a great pick. Teams are obsessed with speed. If you look at the history of the past couple drafts, who would have thought Henry Ruggs would be the first wide receiver taken that year? Right? Yeah. You think about John Ross, all those picks, like they are obsessed with speed. And I think Jameson Williams he has such a high upside. And when you look back at it, he's just going to be an explosive playmaker. And that's exactly what NFL teams look for.
Yeah, especially a team like you could add that dimension to Kyle Pitts and hopefully open up the offense for him because last year, I mean, double, triple teams at times. So Jameson Williams and Kyle Pitts, that's going to be pretty fun. The Seattle Seahawks, number 9 pick, Ruben, who you got?
Okay, so this is where I like my first trade down. I'm going to make a trade with, do we have to make trades if it's just our picks? Or could we kind of cross over?
I mean, you can. I just got to figure it out. It's first time using this, but yeah. So the next pick.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Who do you want to trade with?
So let's do the New Orleans Saints.
A pick 16?
Correct.
All right.
And 19. So both those picks, you just, yeah.
Okay. And then for pick 9?
Number 9. Correct.
Wow.
Yeah, so I do highly think that the Saints will trade up. There was absolutely no reason to make the trade they did a month before the draft if they weren't trying to collect assets to pick a quarterback.
Ooh.
I think they found someone they like, and they're going to go with Malik Willis at number 9.
Okay. This is fascinating. I'm just sitting back here, watch this GM operate. Malik Willis, why do you think it's Malik Willis for the Saints at number 9?
Malik Willis is the highest ceiling quarterback this year. He can move the chains with both his arms and legs. Even though he's a project, with Jameis Winston as the quarterback, they do have some time with the new coaching staff. I think that he'll have his year of development. He's going to take his redshirt year, and he's going to be the starting quarterback next year. I love everything about his game. It's just going to take some time. I think it'd be super exciting for the Saints. They get their quarterback of the future, and they want to be aggressive. They have 2 picks in the mid first round. I think it's a great pick for them.
All right, so the Jets with 2 picks in the top 10 could obviously look to trade. They could potentially trade back here. They could potentially trade for Deebo Samuel here. They could also pick a wide receiver or pick an edge rusher based on what I've already done. So based on what I have on my board, and given that this is one of their needs, obviously PFF is not as high as me on this player, but I really love Jermaine Johnson from Florida State as an edge rusher. I think he's got a ton of upside, and he's already got a strong floor given that he is a dominant run defender. He's got great power. He's still pretty raw, but he shows enough bend where you could see him becoming an elite pass rusher. I feel like he is the guy that I would bank on in terms of solid floor. You see the energy. I love the ferociousness he plays with. So he, to me, fits a Robert Saleh defensive end, and I'm going to put him with the Jets, and you get your pass rusher to complement Carl Lawson there.
Absolutely. I really like that pick. You go corner and pass rusher. That's a dream for the Jets.
Their defense all of a sudden is pretty good now. I mean, it's pretty good. All right. Number 11, are we looking at another trade with the Commanders here?
You know what? I like Washington at this pick. Kyle Hamilton is very intriguing, but we're going to go with a wide receiver.
Okay.
Washington has invested a lot in Carson Wentz, and you want to get him the best option available.
Yep.
I do like the tandem of Terry McLaurin and Garrett Wilson as Ohio State duo, but I think Carson Wentz will do better with a big body receiver.
Ooh.
We're going to go with Drake London from USC.
You almost got me there. But yeah, Drake London. I know that some people love him. Some people don't love him. Obviously, you love him. What do you love about Drake London?
You know what? I think Drake London. See, Garrett Wilson is the better player, but at this point, I think the fit works better. I like, if you're thinking about Washington's wide receiver room, we have the technician in Terry McLaurin, and then you have the big body in Drake London. I just think it works better that way. If Garrett Wilson and Terry McLaurin were in the same wide receiver room, it would work very well, but they're kind of similar. I want something a little different. I want the big body option red zone receiver, and then I want the technician to get me to the red zone.
I know there are concerns about London in terms of his separation and stuff like that. Personally, what I can say when I watched him is that I saw enough in terms of lateral twitch and quickness that I do think he can separate, especially underneath and intermediate routes. Deeper down the field where he's got to use more speed, that might not be a thing, but just because he's so good at jump balls, I don't know if it really matters. But like you said, with Carson Wentz, he loved Alshon Jeffrey and those big receivers with the Eagles, so I think that's a good pick right there at number 11. The number 12 pick for the Minnesota Vikings is interesting. I think a lot of people are looking at cornerback here for them, which is, I think, their biggest need. Offensive line-wise, they've always had kind of like mediocre players, but I actually think their offensive line is not that bad, or at least in clear need of an upgrade. Pass rush, they upgraded with Za'Darius Smith, so I don't think they really need to look there either. So I'm going to say secondary. And you could really choose here between Kyle Hamilton and Trent McDuffie with what you want to do. I could see them going Hamilton because he's a lot, like, to me, when I was watching him, I thought of Harrison Smith. Like, that's really who I thought of, because he can do a little bit of everything. He can cover deep. He can play in the box. He's a good tackler. Very smart, too, and pretty tall. So I think, honestly, I would actually like to see that. So just having to go with Kyle Hamilton here and solidify those safeties for the Vikings. They have a new scheme, and I know that safeties are important in that scheme. So I'm going to go with Kyle Hamilton.
When it gets to that part of the draft, you're just basically going to go with best player available, right? Even though safety isn't necessarily so much of a need, it's one of those players that it's too good to pass up.
Yeah, they need secondary just in general. So, I mean, in today's NFL, you just got to put those best guys on the field and hope it works out.
Absolutely.
All right. Number 13. Every position is a need, according to PFF, for the Houston Texans. So where are they going to go here?
I cannot believe Kayvon Thibodeau is still on the board. Wow.
Ooh, there you go. Take him.
We already went with Trayvon Walker, so I wouldn't want to double dip. I'm going to go with Garrett Wilson.
Okay.
I think they need some weapons. Davis Mills is the quarterback of the future for them. I think that would be a good option for them. 2 impact players.
All right. This one is interesting. The Ravens. I don't think. Here's the thing. Thibodeau keeps falling. I don't think he fits the Ravens very well. Just in terms of their profile of what they like from edge and defensive linemen. I could see a big defensive lineman here. I could also see secondary. They've always went with secondary over pass rush in terms of their assets in the past. So I'm not sure how Don Martindale leaving and going to your Giants actually impacts that, if they're changing their philosophy or not. That's something I don't really know. So I look at them and I view Marlon Humphrey, Marcus Peters. Marcus Peters getting a little bit older, but your nickel corner situation is a little messy. And on top of that, you just love versatility. So I love Trent McDuffie here for them. I really like Trent McDuffie. I think he can play man or zone. I think he's better probably in zone, but he could play nickel or on the outside, which I really like. He's very smart. And eventually he could take over for Peters, but he could also start right away as your nickel. That was a big problem last year. Tavon Young left. So I think that the Ravens could use another corner and continue to add to that position that they love so much.
Yeah, that's probably one of the best fits in this whole draft. Incredible IQ, one of the smartest players. When you have a coach like John Harbaugh, he loves high IQ players. And Trent McDuffie, you have some Pro Bowl upside with him. I love that pick.
All right, number 15. Now, this is a spot where I think Thibodeau could go, but they already have quite a few pass rushers. What do you think?
Without a doubt. Let's add to the stable of pass rushers. We're going Kayvon Thibodeau at 15. You have to remember, you can't force feed these mock drafts, right? Just because Kayvon Thibodeau went 15, is it a little realistic? Maybe not. But at the end of the day, you're going for the best fits. You can't just pick someone because they're a top 10 lock. You have to get the best fits, right? So Kayvon Thibodeau to the Eagles, they'll know what to do with them. They'll get that great upside, and he'll be a superstar and a rock star in Philadelphia. They'll take him as their own, and he'll love it there.
Yeah, I think it makes total sense, and I think that's the type of scheme that could utilize him to his best to get that raw pass rush out of him. All right, number 16. This is where we had the trade, right? So
yes,
they're here. They're sitting here, and the Seattle Seahawks, I guess they could technically take a quarterback. If I want to be fun, I mean, I could just take a quarterback right here. I don't know, though. They also need a tackle. They need defense. So they need a lot of things. They
have two picks, right? They have 16 and 19. So they're gonna get two good players.
Right. So let me look at this board here real quick. I don't think they need wide receiver. I could go potentially tackle with one of these picks. So looking at the board, Chargers are 17. They're not going to pick a quarterback. All right. 18 is the Eagles. I don't think they're going to pick a quarterback either, although, they could. I'm going to look at tackle because I think they need one really bad. I've seen Trevor Penning mocked to them a ton, and I do think he's probably the best on the board at tackle. I'm going to go with him here. I just think they need a tackle super bad. They need to help that offensive line. So I'll go with Trevor Penning from Northern Iowa there. I think he's a little raw, but that's the type of player that Seattle likes, and typically they have not been shy about picking defensive line, offensive line in the first round in the past. So at number 16, Trevor Penning from Northern Iowa. Number 17, the Chargers.
This is one of the most exciting picks. I'm going to pick Georgia's Jordan Davis. Now, just imagine Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, and Jordan Davis.
Oh, man.
You talk about first guys coming off the bus. Jordan Davis will scare some people. Now, the value of Jordan Davis is on first and second down. He stops the run so well that they get to third and long. Now imagine this. Jordan Davis does this thing on the inside. He eats blocks. He stops the run. Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack on third and long frequently. It will be scary. It'll be scary.
Yeah, I think when you're talking about value, I feel like the Chargers are literally perfect because they want to play with less people in the box. So how do you get away with that? You put a massive planet in the middle of your defense and ask him to eat up blocks and help out those guys, Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa. But I do think I'm high on Jordan Davis. Like, I think he can eventually, maybe not right away, but eventually become a 3-down player where he is rushing the passer. And don't forget, first and second down, we pass the ball now. So I think he can push the pocket, and I see a lot of, I think this has been a comp for him, I'm not quite sure, but I see a lot of Vita Vea here, and I think Vita Vea is a top 10 pick in any draft, really, so he's a freak of nature. I think that's a great pick. At number 18, the Philadelphia Eagles. So you just picked pass rusher. So here, I honestly think they need to get a receiver. But personally, I don't really see one that's honestly like that I love here at number 18. Linebacker has never been a position that they particularly like to pick. Corner could also be a position here as well. But like if this was up to me, I think I would honestly probably trade down. I just don't know who I want to trade down with, and I don't want to go through that whole thing. So, just for the sake of it, I'm going to pick somebody. And I do think a great fit, if they're to go with a defensive lineman again, Fletcher Cox is getting old, right? Javon Hargrave is there. He's good. But I think Devontae Wyatt actually is like a perfect fit for them scheme-wise. I really like that fit in terms of just the four-man front. He uses his hands really well. He's a good pass rusher. I think he has immense upside as a pass rusher. So that might be shocking, but I just look at that fit and I think it's a great fit. And maybe it's not pure need based, but I think it honestly makes sense. So I'm gonna go with Wyatt. An Eagles fan's gonna hate me, but whatever.
Now, could you imagine 3 Georgia inside defensive linemen going in the top 20? When have we ever seen something? I think
it's gonna happen though. I don't know.
They're incredible. They're absolutely incredible. I know Trayvon Walker is going to be an edge in the NFL, but he was an interior defensive lineman. 3 of them in the top 20. I don't think we've ever seen anything like that.
Yeah, and there's going to be a lot more Georgia guys getting drafted. Maybe not today, but later in the draft. So number 19 puts the Seahawks back up here, and now the ball is in your court. Are you going to take the quarterback, or are you going to add to the defense here? I picked a tackle earlier. So
I'm very, very confident in the quarterback. The quarterback's going to be Matt Corral from Ole Miss.
Ooh.
So the interesting thing here is the Steelers with the next pick, they're going to probably want a quarterback too. Mm-hmm. So we're going to pick our guy. Matt Corral, I love him. He throws at all 3 levels, outside the numbers, very well. He has the swagger. I love the fit there. I think Pete Carroll will really like his confidence, and he's going to get the best out of him.
Yeah, I recently just moved Matt Corral to my number 1 quarterback in the draft, so I'm really high on him in terms of, I think, mentally and stuff, he's got a lot of room to grow in terms of the college offense being very kind of like RPO centric and one read sort of stuff. But when you just watch all these quarterbacks in terms of mechanics, arm strength, accuracy, and just overall ball placement, the guy he's great. So he is a top prospect in terms of those areas, and even the feet and running and scrambling ability as well. Concerns, I think, are that mental processing stuff that you're going to have to teach, on top of maybe him being a little small and injury prone. But hey, Seahawks had a little bit of a short guy before, so
and it worked out for them.
Yeah, number 20. I'm also going to be exciting here with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I'm going to take the Pittsburgh quarterback, Kenny Pickett. I like Kenny Pickett. I know a lot of people are down on him, whatever. He's definitely the most ready quarterback, I think, to start day one. And I think he's accurate. I think he reads the field well. I think he processes the best out of the class. He gets a little antsy in the pocket at times, but I think you can fix that. And I do think just his overall game fits a team in the Steelers that have a pretty good roster right now and are looking to still win right now. So I think Kenny Pickett, if I were to say who's going to be the best in year one, it's Kenny Pickett. And I'm going to pick him at number 20. What are your thoughts on Kenny Pickett?
I think, I like that pick. I think the Steelers are going to want to go quarterback. You need an option there. Trubisky, the contract they gave him was a bridge quarterback contract. So I think they're looking for something with the future. Now, there's been so many reports that the Steelers are in love with Malik Willis. Yeah. If they want him, they're going to have to go up and get him. I just don't see the Steelers being aggressive and doing that and mortgaging a little bit of their future. So I think they play this game where they see who drops to them, and if there's an option they like, they'll pick him. But Kenny Pickett's a good fit. I like him. Obviously went to the University of Pittsburgh, now going to the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's going to be a fan favorite. He's hard-nosed. He's a blue-collar guy. Fits the town perfectly.
I think as well, we just got to bring this up. It's a must, okay? They passed on Pittsburgh quarterback Dan Marino, okay? I'm not saying Kenny Pickett is Dan Marino, but imagine. Okay, number 21 is my New England Patriots. Ruben, give me something good. Give me something to salivate over. Come on, let's go.
I absolutely am. I'm going to give you something that's going to fit Bill Belichick perfectly. We're going to go with a defensive player that is extremely versatile. Okay. George Karlaftis can play the 3-4 as a defensive end, or a 4-3 he can play the edge or the end depending on the scheme. Yeah. We know that Bill Belichick likes going multiple. He likes having different looks. George Karlaftis is a hard worker. He uses his power to win. I love that fit. I think George Karlaftis would be perfect in New England.
I think that's a very underrated need for New England. Is the edge position. So I'm glad that you went there. I'm going to be very intrigued to see what Bill does, because I think he could pick a multitude of defensive positions. I don't think he's going to go offense in the first round. He could go linebacker. Devin Lloyd's there. He could go corner, right? He could go edge. I think adding to that pass rush and getting a guy opposite Matthew Judon, who signed long-term, is a good idea. So, yeah, George Karlaftis to me is a top 20 prospect in the draft, so I think that's a great pick. Number 22 is the Green Bay Packers. And I am the most critical Green Bay Packer person in terms of when are you going to get, it used to be number 2 receiver. Now just get a receiver, okay? Get a receiver. Now, I have my personal preference in terms of who I would go with, but I'm going to try to be a little bit more realistic. Now, I have heard that the Packers like Chris Olave a lot. So, that's what I'm going to go with. I don't care who they pick at receiver, just pick receivers. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. So, Chris Olave is going to be the pick from the Ohio State University.
He's so pro-ready. With that wide receiver room, they need production right away. We know how Aaron Rodgers has been, and he's going to be complaining if he doesn't get some options. Chris Olave is so pro-ready, the most pro-ready wide receiver in this draft. Ooh. He's going to fit like a glove.
Nice. All right, number 23 is next. We've got the Arizona Cardinals, who I think have, for a playoff team, more needs than you would think. So where are you going to go with the Arizona Cardinals selection?
The Cardinals were graded the 22nd secondary in the NFL last year. They have to improve that secondary. I'm going to go with Andrew Booth Jr. from Clemson.
Okay.
I like his game. He's a shutdown corner. He can play man and zone. He's smart. I don't think he's even scratched the surface. I think he's such a good athlete that the ball production is going to get better. He'll fit like a glove in that team too. I think at this point in the draft, you're going for these good fits. You can reach just a little bit as long as it's a need and a fit, and that's exactly what Andrew Booth Jr. is.
All right, so the Cowboys are interesting. Like it says on PFF, needs O-line, D-line, linebacker. I don't think I'm looking at linebacker here personally. I think they've got enough at linebacker to get by. I actually think they need to get back to adding to the offensive line. Offensive line's been a big reason why they've been successful offensively over the last decade. And I think there is an absolutely stone-cold lock of a beast on the board. And that's Tyler Linderbaum. Even though that's not a tackle, he's a monster, okay? And I don't think they can pass that up. They also are not shy about going with somebody like a Travis Frederick in this sort of spot. So Tyler Linderbaum is just too good to pass up at number 24.
Drafting interior offensive linemen have worked so well for them before. I couldn't tell you a player with a higher floor than Tyler Linderbaum. He's going to be an all-pro at least once in his career.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Number 25 is the Buffalo Bills, who alternatively don't have a ton of needs. but they could add to a championship caliber team with a good player here.
This is a tough one. I'm gonna have to take a look at this.
Yeah, okay. What position you want to look?
You know what? I'm gonna go with a wide receiver. I think George Pickens would be the best option. I love George Pickens' game. I think he's actually super, super underrated. He has a great catch radius, probably the best hands in this draft. He would be a really good opposite Stephon Diggs. You need to get Josh Allen some weapons. They have good weapons, but they're at the point where it's just like it's an embarrassment of riches at this point with George Pickens. Let's just get Josh Allen all the weapons, and let's see these guys go out with 4 wide receivers out and just see what they can do on the field.
Hey, I never blame a team for picking receivers. I think there are a couple positions where you can never go wrong. Wide receiver is one of them, especially now, Ruben, given the contracts. So now you've got a guy on a rookie contract who, if you really like him, he could be a good receiver, a starting receiver for you for the next 4 years until you got to pay him. So I love that for a team with Josh Allen who's just airing that ball out. Number 26 is the Tennessee Titans. The Titans, this is interesting. They could go defense here. They could go receiver here, or offensive line. I think their offensive line is a little weak. I know that there's been one commonly mocked person, which is Tyler Smith. I think personally Johnson is the stronger prospect and is more ready to play. I think Vrabel would love Devin Lloyd. I think he would love Devin Lloyd. I don't know if I can pass. Mike Vrabel might want to go with Devin Lloyd here. Who do I go with? You know what? I know Titans fans are not going to be happy. I'm going to pick Devin Lloyd, bro. I don't care. Okay, this is Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel likes linebackers. He was a linebacker like Devin Lloyd. He could play on the inside. He could play on the outside. He could rush the passer. He could drop in coverage. So just add another weapon to that scheme and a variety to that pass rush with a bunch of hybrid playmakers. I think Devin Lloyd is the best player on the board, and I think he's the pick.
In that loaded AFC, they're going to need all the defensive help they can get. I love that pick. I think I've gotten some backlash for drafting a linebacker to Tennessee before, and you know what? I wouldn't care either. That's just a great pick.
All right, number 27 is the Tampa Bay Bucks, who have arguably the least amount of holes in the NFL. Some people think they could use a guard. Some people think they could use secondary or maybe even defensive line. What do you think, Ruben?
If I want Tom Brady to stop complimenting his retirement, I'm going to get an offensive lineman. It's going to be Zion Johnson. I think the longer you can keep Tom Brady on his feet, the more big plays he's going to make. I know we keep on saying this. He is a little older in age. We've seen him retire before. I feel like if he gets the protection that he gets, it's a Super Bowl team, right? Like we all know that. One injury could really affect the rest of his career. So let's bolster that offensive line. Zion Johnson, it's a great pick. At this part of the draft, people will be more than happy to pick interior offensive linemen. I think that would work for them. Yeah,
I think Zion here, like even if they like Aaron Stinney, who personally I like, obviously they got Shaq Mason, but he is expected to replace Ali Marpet at left guard Aaron Stinney. And he played in the Super Bowl versus the Chiefs and was pretty good. So he's proven he can start. But like you said, not only an injury to Tom Brady, but an injury to the offensive line, right? So this is somebody that can play multiple positions and also just provide some depth or start right away. I expect him to start right away, move Stinney back to the backup role, and then potentially have a good backup off the bench if somebody gets hurt, like a Ryan Jensen or one of their starting guards. So I think that makes a lot of sense. Just you can't have enough offensive line when you got Tom Brady at this age. So 27 is a good pick for the Bucs. At number 28, the Green Bay Packers. And I still think they need receivers. I still think they need receivers. Maybe they don't because they signed maybe they don't go with another receiver because they'd signed Sammy Watkins. And I think the corpse of Randall Cobb is still on the team. Alan Lazard is still there. So, I mean, maybe they don't go receiver. Given their history, they probably won't. But I am too excited. I can't wait any longer to pick my favorite player in the draft. And that's Christian Watson. I love Christian Watson. That's my guy. This guy is electric. And he just ran by everybody. Ran by everybody vertically. And I don't think people understand how athletically gifted he is horizontally, laterally. You can get the ball in his hands on reverses. This could be, you always use that Deebo Samuel thing. He can do those things. He did it at North Dakota State. You could give him the ball. You could put him at running back. He did that as well. And he's going to just burn defenses down the field. So you have a receiver in Chris Olave who I think can work in the slot and work that short intermediate levels. And now Watson, who can stress the defense vertically. I think that is phenomenal and gives Aaron Rodgers a bunch of weapons for this season to not only be good now, but potentially to be electric down the road for maybe Jordan Love or maybe not. So, number 28, Christian Watson. That might be a shocker, but I had to do it.
I think all the Packers don't draft wide receivers in the first round memes would be put to rest with 2 first-round wide
Gotta
receivers.
go. Gotta do it. All right, another team that needs wide receivers is the Kansas City Chiefs. What do you think about the Chiefs in terms of wide receiver, or maybe do they go defense because they still need some defensive help?
So they have back-to-back picks. It doesn't really matter the order of it. But I'm going to go with Kaiir Elam from Florida, the cornerback. They do have a need at cornerback. I think he's actually one of the most underrated players too. I feel like I've been saying that so much, but there are so many underrated players. He kind of has the same thing as Derek Stingley, where he had an incredible freshman year and then kind of went back down. I think a lot of that had to do with the coaching staff at Florida. They were basically like 90% offensive. They didn't really develop defensive players that well. I think that Kaiir Elam, when he goes to a right system, he's really going to thrive. I think that's a steal at that point in the draft.
Yeah, I think just from a player to scheme standpoint, it fits really well. Because I think Elam, what he does best, or at least what I saw he did best, was man press coverage. And that's something that the Chiefs really do a lot of. You look at Charvarius Ward, who was kind of one of their perimeter players. You put Elam right in there right away, and he can kind of replace him. So I think that is a very smart pick, both need-wise and player-wise. Number 30, who are the Chiefs going to go with?
Let's see here. Let's see.
You want to look? What position?
I'm gonna go with Sky Moore from Western Michigan. They need a wide receiver. I think that Sky Moore would be very versatile. I don't think there's anyone in the NFL that's more creative with playmakers than Andy Reid. I think Sky Moore is so underrated, and he's going to be a very good option for that Kansas City team. I feel like you can get someone from the street, and they'll be a good option in that offense. But how about we get a talented guy in Sky Moore? He's been rising up the draft boards. A lot of teams like him. Yeah,
I love Sky Moore, man. I love his ability to break tackles. I love his releases, his toughness, he just has that. I love that wide receiver with that grit, and just so that's definitely a player I really like. I had him as a top 5 receiver, actually. So yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And you can also play in the slot and outside. I'm not quite sure if that's the type of receiver that they would pick, but I like that player. So at number 30, Sky Moore. Number 31 is the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals really don't have a lot of needs when you look at it, to be honest with you. I feel like they are good, honestly, at safety. Corner, maybe they could use a corner. I'm not quite sure who's on the board. Okay. So, they have Daxton Hill as a corner, which I kind of think he's a safety. Same as Baylor kid, Petrie. But I feel like Daxton Hill would probably be my top player. I don't necessarily know if he fits the Bengals, though, so that's not where I'm going to go. Offensive line, I think, is solid. I don't think they need any more offensive linemen after what they did in the offseason. They don't need wide receiver. They don't need running back. So I think we're looking to defensive line. So maybe they go, or linebacker. Maybe they go edge. Let's take a look. And I got corner up there as well. Or do they go interior? And I think it's edge, or it's... Where do you stand on this? I think it's edge or linebacker. What do you think?
If I were to have a pick, I would say we're going to go back to the interior offensive line position. The reason for that would be Joe Burrow already has 2 major surgeries, right? So I would pick Kenyon Green from Texas A&M. The reason for that is because he's extremely versatile, right? So when you can get someone who can play all the interior offensive line positions and even cover for a tackle being injured, with the 31st pick, the insurance for the offensive line, I think that's too valuable to pass up. I just don't really like the fits anywhere else, like any other position. It'd be tough. I think they go back to the offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I really like the 5 they have right now, but if you're looking for the future, it does make sense. And I think Kenyon Green is one of the top, if not the best player on the board. I mean, he's really that good. So I think that I'll go with that. That is a good pick and a good suggestion there by Ruben. And I think he's too good of a player to me to keep out of the first round. So I'll pick him there. Number 32 is the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions have many options here because they could pick a quarterback, although that's kind of off the board now because all three of the best ones have been picked already. They could go with defense. The PFF suggests linebacker and DB. They got their defensive end earlier in Hutchinson. They could go receiver as well. I wouldn't see them going anywhere else. What about you?
Okay, so this is very interesting. So they have the second pick in the second round too, so they're almost going to have to double dip. That 32nd pick is so valuable because it has an extra year of control on the rookie contract. So how can we maximize that pick as much as possible? We're going to go quarterback. If it was up to me, really? Desmond Ridder at 32nd overall, you get that extra year of control. I know he's a little bit of a project, but Jared Goff will start this year. Desmond Ridder can come mid-season depending on how it goes. And they get the extra year of control that is so valuable for a quarterback. I think it's a good fit. Desmond Ridder has been such a hot prospect coming up. A lot of people have been talking about him. I don't like him as much, but with the 32nd pick, that's something I would love to invest in.
All right, I like that pick. I'm not a Ridder fan, but hey, that's not why we do this, right? This is about the teams and potentially getting the most value. And at number 32, like you said, extra year, quarterback, maybe he is better than I think, and he can be the guy for Detroit. So that's never a bad pick whatsoever. So looking at the first round mock draft that we just completed, I think it's pretty good. We had a couple, I had a couple. I'll at least put it on me. I had a couple maybe crazy picks here and there, but I think that this is in terms of the best players, in terms of the fits, in terms of the needs. I think we did a quality job. What do you think, Ruben?
Yeah, I absolutely do. I think there's some players who went down the board, but you have to understand these. It's not about the best player, like just the best prospect. They have to fit. So, for example, Kayvon Thibodeau, there's been so many reports that teams are really kind of having a question mark on his personality, right? So you have to find the right fit. Is he a great player? There's no doubt about that. But how is he going to fit the locker room, right? You don't want to draft a me guy. We've seen how the locker room cancers have worked before. So yeah, I think Kayvon Thibodeau at 15 it's definitely one of those outlandish things, but you have to find the right pick. Honestly, if I were to say right now and go out on a limb, I would not be surprised if he fell in the draft.
I would not be surprised. Outside, and I mean probably outside the top 10. I'm not talking about Aaron Rodgers here where it's like 25 or whatever. But I could see him falling in the draft. I don't think that is completely shocking. And like you said, it's about fit, it's about personality, it's about culture. And there's a lot of good like defensive edge players, and like I feel like this is actually doing my research, going through the draft class. A lot of people are saying this is a weak class, and personally, I think it has a lot more to offer than people are giving it credit for. I don't know if you feel that way. I think the quarterbacks, okay, maybe a little bit lesser, but other positions, I feel pretty good, and I feel like there's a pretty solid 25 players that I feel I know are going to go in the first round.
Yeah, I think I like this draft. The thing is, like everyone talks about, it's the quarterback power, right? There's not many trade down options when it comes to the first 5, 6 picks, which is kind of weird because in other drafts, you'd always think the second or third overall, those teams are always looking to come down. And the thing is, too, when quarterbacks get taken, so last year we've had, was it 4 or 5 quarterbacks taken in the top 10? 4, right? 4 quarterbacks taken in the top 10 last year?
Where was Fields picked?
Fields was picked at 12.
Yeah, so I think it was 11. 3. I think it was 3.
Okay, so, and what it does is it pushes everyone back
5
down,
in the top 15, I think.
So there you go, right? So all those quarterbacks pushes down the talent down. Micah Parsons getting drafted at 12th overall. Could you imagine? It's one of those things where when you have the quarterbacks up, it pushes everyone down, right? Rashawn Slater got drafted later on. It's just one of those things that the quarterbacks pushes the talent down. This year, since there is no quarterbacks, it's those talented edge offensive linemen, those cornerbacks are taken a little bit early, so it doesn't look like the draft has as much juice when it comes to the mid rounds.
Yeah,
but that's what quarterbacks do, man. They hold all the attention, right?
Very, very fair. All right, well, appreciate you joining the BLV for the mock draft. Do you want to let the people know where they can find you on social media, whatever?
I really appreciate you having me on. It's really nice, and I hope I get to interact with some of your followers. So you can find me at Teixeira CTB on Twitter and Catch the Blitz on Instagram. So we have a bunch of content we always put out, and yeah, I'm looking forward to interacting with anyone who has questions or wants to know anything about this draft.
Go G-Man?
Absolutely. 5 and 7, you gotta hit a home run with those ones. No more joking around.
Yeah. All right, Ruben. Appreciate it, man. This was a lot of fun. You brought a lot of knowledge, a lot of value to the viewers. So we will for sure have you back. Appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Peace.